Have you ever had this happen to you before? You're walking through a store and you look across the way and you see an old friend that you haven't talked to in years, but they not only ignore you, they hide from you. Well, this happened to me a couple days ago in Target. I'm walking down the aisles and I first pass my old friend's wife, and we're walking down the aisle and I pass right beside her and I look her way to make eye contact to say hello. But I notice she is just deadpan staring straight ahead. She doesn't even flinch, doesn't look my way at all. So I give her the respect of leaving her alone because I figure she didn't want to be bothered. She didn't want to say hello, which is okay. We weren't, that close to begin with. We were more of acquaintances. We were friendly and cordial and all, but never super close. So I go about my business and I get to the cashier checkout in Target, and I look up and I see across the way my friend's wife, and this time my friend is with her. So I finish up checking out with the cashier and I gather my things and I start walking out to my car. Well, I have to pass directly in front of them on the way out. So again, I look their way in an attempt to make eye contact, just to nod or politely say hello. But I noticed my friend ducked into his cart to grab something the moment that I'm passing by. So I took this as a sign that he didn't want to talk to me, or he didn't want to be bothered, or I'm not sure what. So at this point, I'm a little hurt, but I'm okay with it. So I understand people don't always want to be bothered and not always in the mood, even to just say hello to an old friend. So I go about my business and go out to my car. While I'm loading up my car, I just happen to look over right at the exact time that the two of them are walking right in front of my car. So again, I think this is another opportunity to just give a little nod or a polite hello. But again, I noticed that my friend seemed to intentionally put a box that he was carrying up on his shoulder to deliberately block his face. And I took that as he was hiding from me. So of course, that hurt. I have one of those minds that kind of gets fixated on things. So I start thinking, what did I do? What did I do wrong? What could possibly have happened between 30 years ago and now that I did wrong to this person? And I know that's probably not a realistic way to think, because quite literally it had been about 30 years since we were actually friends. I've spoke to him a few times in that past 30 years. The last time was probably 4 or 5 years ago, where we ran into each other. We happen to live in the same neighborhood, and we exchanged courtesies for a while and chatted for a few minutes. So everything seemed fine. But again, I have one of those minds that just stays fixated on things. So for the next several minutes or hours, or at this point days, I'm wondering about this interaction. Why did it happen the way that it did? What events had to take place for me and an old friend to not even be able to say a simple hello to each other? And you may be thinking, well, that was 30 years ago, so what's the big deal? Well, to me, if you were ever a part of my life, if you were ever a friend, relative, in a relationship, or whatever the case may be, if you were a part of my life, you're still a part of my life. Because to me, life is one continuous story. And I think a lot of people think of life in chapters rather than thinking of the whole book, the complete story. Sometimes we tend to think of life in chapters. So 30 years ago, when my friend and I were actually friends and hanging out together, was one chapter. Now 30 years later, he's on to a completely different chapter, where I see it as not individual chapters, but a continuous story, a complete book. So I'm thinking in my mind, well, we'll just pick up where we left off and say hello and be cordial, and life goes on. But I don't think everybody thinks like that. Quite honestly, I don't think many people think like that. I do believe I'm what they call a sensitive person, or a highly sensitive person, or as my wife calls me, I'm a snowflake, and that's all right. But tell me what you think. How do you think of life? Do you think of life in chapters or as a full story? Do you think I'm overreacting and shouldn't have expected to even be able to say hello to an old friend? Or do you think it even matters? To me, it matters. Now, I'm not saying I'm still hurt about it or upset or anything like that. I'm just saying I think life is a continuous story. If you were a part of my story ever, you continue to be a part of my story. Good or bad, it's all part of the same story. So let me know what you think, and we'll leave it at that.